Hi, everyone. My name is Ben Arrona. We'll do a quick introduction real quick, and we'll spell out what we're going to talk about today, and then we'll get started. So about me, my name is Ben Arrona. I'm a San Luis Obispo native. I've been in the service industry for about 20 plus years, front of the house, back of the house. And currently I'm the owner of Benny's Pizza Palace and Social Club in San Luis Obispo. Also, not restaurant related, but very, I guess, lecture related. I am a professor at Cuesta College in history, and I'm finishing up my PhD at the University of Oxford in England. So I'm a very busy dude, and of course I make time to teach all of you and to learn with you. Fun little thing that I did for this lecture that I changed up the old one. ChatGTP is a crazy thing, right? And so I uploaded a photo of myself, which is a cool photo that's on my LinkedIn profile and stuff, me holding some sunglasses. And then they kind of created a nice little funky cartoon of me. So throughout the entire lecture, yeah, you'll see a little boyish with a lot better hair and smoother skin and a little bit skinnier than me throughout the whole thing. And it's fun. So let's get started, right? So the importance of excellent customer service in restaurants. So why are we doing this today? We want to make sure that customer satisfaction will equal repeat customers and, of course, increased venue for your business, okay? You're going to have a bigger community impact. Your restaurant is going to be a bigger community impact. I get people all the time telling me, they'll bring in their families to my restaurant and they'll say, you know what, this is a great community space. A lot of times I think restaurant owners and community members don't really think about how much these restaurants are actually institutions for the community. They're meeting places for people. They're a way for us to talk to each other, to maybe get a beer after work, to relax, to talk, politics or whatever you do, right, in community spaces, or meet with like-minded people. So the more better customer service you provide, the better community impact you're going to have. Of course, the better customer service, you're going to have that positive reputation. People are going to be coming back to your restaurant, and everything it will just be better for everyone. And then, of course, for your employees, it will be a productive work environment if everybody is happy and you're in a great, positive place. Okay. Did this thing break again, Madison? Okay. Okay. So a brief overview of the presentation today. Good morning. We're going to talk about understanding customer expectations, right? When customers come into your restaurant, what they're going to, for the most part, expect, what kind of service for you to provide. We're going to be, next slide will be building a positive first impression, meeting people, greeting people, making people feel welcome and safe in your establishment. Effective communication skills, of course. After you've already established rapport through that first impression, you're going to be communicating, how your restaurant works. I'll give a little bit of details about how my restaurant specifically works compared to other restaurants. It's important to communicate that effectively with the customers so they know how everything works. And then, of course, menu knowledge and recommendation rolls right off the back of that effective communication skills. If your employees properly know what products you have, they can effectively communicate that to customers coming in, right, to make a better experience for themselves, or sorry, for the customers, actually for themselves also. And then, of course, recommendations, right? You're going to want the staff to have their favorite so they can recommend it to people. I think that the whole process of word of mouth, right, is huge and it's massive. And if you jump back up to that positive first impression, effective communication skills, you create a warm environment. And then, of course, that customer, they might be meeting that server for the first time. They're going to take their recommendation because they feel like they like the person, they like the place, right? Makes sense. It all kind of connects. And then, of course, there are going to be difficult situations. There'll be complaints, right? So we'll talk a little bit about handling complaints in difficult situations. Then teamwork and collaboration. You're going to want to foster a friendly, safe, great, happy environment the best you can for your team. Because when everyone wants to come to work, they're going to do so much better. Okay. Not only for the other employees, they're going to do things for each other, but also they're going to be nice and helpful for the customer too. That rolls right into going the extra mile. Everyone's happy. Everyone's, coming into work. They're going to go the extra mile for, like I said, the other employees and also for the customers. And then we'll end it with conclusion and some questions. Okay, so understanding customer expectations. Now, why is this important? Xavier, I'm always going to call on the one dude here. So you're the one, you're in the hot seat today. Okay, so understanding customer expectations. Why do you think it's important for a team member to understand and will understand customer expectations?
It's important because it establishes a sense in the space that the customer is cared for and they feel that they can trust the establishment and the people serving them.
Perfect, right? So we're not going to name any restaurants, right? But we all have those restaurants where you're like, I'm not going to go there, right? Someone will recommend it. You'll be like, I don't want to go there, dude. Right? Because of issues like quality food, right? Maybe there's no standard in the hit and miss, or you can tell that maybe the products they're using, the distributors, they're like getting the cheapest food possible, right? We've all been to those restaurants where you're like, this kind of tastes like cafeteria food, right? Like I'm not going to pay $20 for this burrito when it doesn't taste good, right? Okay, so we want the food quality to be great. We want a clean and pleasant ambiance, right? You want to walk into a restaurant that you can tell has been cleaned. You don't want trash on the floor, right? That's one of the biggest things actually in my restaurant. When I walk around and I'm touching tables, what does that mean, Xavier?
You're checking it.
Right. Well, touching tables, actually, if you're like a restaurant owner or a manager, you're walking around and touching tables means you're talking to the people at the tables. Yes, of course, you're like checking in with them as far as if they need a soda refill or something, or if there's trash on the ground, but you're mostly making people feel comfortable, right? So when I'm walking around the restaurant touching tables, I'm making sure that there's not trash on the ground, or that maybe if a table had left, we're turning that table over. We understand what turning tables over means, right? Like you're cleaning it, you're getting it ready for the next person, next people, right? So you want to make sure that the place looks great. If there's trash built up everywhere and everything's dirty and nasty, that reputation's going to get out and people don't want to go there, right? No one wants to go to a restaurant full of trash everywhere. Prompt service and pleasant dining experience, right? Like I said, there's those restaurants where that the service is going to be bad. Sometimes we still go there because the food is so good. A couple restaurants off the top of my head, I'm not going to name them, but you want everything to be great, right? You want people to know, oh, I go there because the service is outstanding, right? Friendly and knowledgeable staff. We want the staff to be able to know everything. When we walk into a restaurant, we want the staff to be like, we want the customer to feel that, okay, this person works here and they know what they're talking about, right? Then I can trust them, right? It's all about building that trust and rapport, right? Accurate orders and flexible menu options. What do you think that the flexible menu options means?
That could mean things like in the case of your restaurant pizza, like offering gluten-free crusts or items that are accessible to everyone. Okay, perfect. And let's take that a step further, right? Let's say I come in and I'm lactose intolerant, which I actually am, which is interesting because I own a pizza restaurant. And I say I'm lactose intolerant, and I say, do you have any non-dairy alternatives? And at my restaurant, I don't, because there's so many different like vegan options for the cheese. It's and it doesn't melt properly and everything else. What would you do if you worked for me? What do you think you would do without knowing my policy? If someone were to come to me with the asking about,
if I say, Xavier, I am lactose intolerant, but I love the taste of your pizza, what can you do for me?
I would let them know that we don't have any vegan cheese options, but we can do something where we can just not put cheese on it.
Perfect.
Just have marinara.
That's exactly what I do at our restaurant. That is the option, is the non-cheese option, right? And people do it all the time and they absolutely love it, right? So my staff knows that. And then people are stoked on it because then they still get to share the experience with their friends. oftentimes too, and I always double check, or I have my staff always double check, like double, triple, quadruple check. Sometimes people will get like a classic or a large pizza and they'll get half no cheese and half cheese. And then we make sure to point it out. When we do something like that, we want to make sure that they're not actually allergic to cheese, right? Because like intolerance and allergic are two different things, right? We want to make sure they're not going to die if they get the cheese, right? So awesome. You want to make sure menu options are flexible and you're not just like, this is how it is, right? You want it to be like Burger King, right? Have it your way, but to a point, right? I don't know if you're old enough to remember those commercials.
Yeah.
They're awesome, right? Okay. And then of course you want the food to be a good value for the money, right? At least my restaurant's not a Michelin star. I'm not giving a tiny little thing for $200, right? You're getting a bunch of food. I think actually my food is underpriced, right? Okay. So it's a very important to meet, but it's also important to exceed customer expectations, right? People come in, oh, I'm pleasantly surprised, right? Because we are what is called a fast casual restaurant, right? And the fast casual thing is probably in the last decade, it's been the new thing, right? You walk up, you order, you get a number, you sit down, we bring you your food. That's fast casual, right? There's no like wait service, stuff like that. But what we like to do at our restaurant is we like to, we don't technically have waiters, but we will have our food runners like refill their sodas and like actually get them things if they need it. So they act as waiters, right? So it's not like a simple cafeteria type thing, right? So there's a lot of people are pleasantly surprised because that happens, right? What is that going to do for our customers? It's going to make them loyal to us. It's going to make them happy, pleasantly surprised, right? They're going to go out, they're going to talk about us. The positive word of mouth and our brand reputation, right? They will get more people coming to our restaurant. Oh, so much fun. The staff knew what they're talking about, pleasantly surprised. I keep using that word because that's kind of what we get, right? Increased customer retention. And of course, people are going to spend more money. What we also like to do is have music, right? And people will hang out and they love the music and they'll spend more money, stuff like that, right? Get that reputation of being like a good time, but not like a crazy like downtown, party all the time vibe. And then of course, employees are going to like to work there. You always see restaurants where like people are stoked to work at a place and they wear their shirts, they wear their hats. It's almost like a little club they're in if they're employees of the restaurant. We've all seen that, right? Okay. So customer expectations are extremely important to meet and to exceed in the restaurant business. Okay. Building a positive first impression, right? So you walk into a restaurant, going off the back of our expectations, Xavier, what would you expect if you walk into a restaurant? And okay, we'll just say, what do you expect?
I expect it to be clean, I expect it to be inviting, to understand immediately what the setup is when I walk in, whether it's a host stand or walk up to the counter.
So signage.
Signage, yeah.
Yeah, what else?
I also want there's people in there. I want to know that other people trust going there because it sets me up to know that, okay, this isn't something where it's new and no one likes it.
Yeah. And very important also, right, is you want staff to be there to greet you, right? To say, hey, how are you? Welcome in, right? And that also goes with when you leave too. Hey guys, thanks for coming in, right? You want like the coming and going of the greeting, right? So important of greeting customers warmly, right? It creates a positive first impression. It sets a welcoming tone. Hey guys, welcome in. A lot of times when I'm there, there are people that I know, people that know me that I don't know them, right? Or they're brand new people that I don't know, right? So people love it when I'm there. And so when I'm there greeting people, they love it. Oh, it's the owner, he's here, right? Everyone loves that, right? But when I'm not there, the staff are to do that, right? It sets a welcoming tone. Like you just said, it builds trust and rapport, everything we just said, right? Establishes a connection with the customers. And that's extremely important, is that human connection, right? People go out, well, for multiple reasons, right? They want someone else to cook for them, or they're too tired to cook. They want an experience, but they also want like connection with other people, right? If not, they would just sit at home and cook ramen all day, right? Okay. Also, greeting customers warmly enhances their comfort makes you feel relaxed and ease, right? Makes you feel like you're in a safe place. I continue to use that word safe, right? Because this ultimately, right? Maybe it's all my therapy I've been doing over the past 20 years, but it makes us kind of more, more relaxed, more wanting to be in a certain place, right? Okay. So tips for friendly, welcoming body language: smile, right? You don't want to walk into a restaurant and an employee just be there and not even notice you, right? Or an employee be like, "What's up?" You want them to smile, say, "Welcome in. How are you? Good to see you," or "Good to see you again. Thanks for coming in. Are you new here?" Right? Smile, make eye contact. Nothing's more important than making eye contact with people, right? It shows trust. It also shows some authority too, right? Like this goes back to like knowing what you're talking about, which we're going to cover pretty soon in the menu stuff, right? And then of course the warm tone. You want to be friendly. You want to be positive with people. Okay. We also talked about just a second ago the importance of cleaning and inviting restaurant environment. You don't want trash everywhere. You want it to be nice. These are all parts of that first impression, right? It's going to make customers happy, and of course, it ensures the health and safety aspect of this whole project. Okay. Effective communication skills, right? Active listening. What do you think active listening is, Xavier?
It's when it's when you are listening with intent to understand or to meet any expectations there or to feel anything.
Give me an example.
So one thing could be if a guest, when they come to you, if there's like a concern, you're trying to make sure that you're understanding what's the concern so that way you know how to properly respond or fix any issue.
Okay. And then one more example of maybe give me an example that comes to me real quick on if I'm saying, "Hey, Xavier, I ordered mushrooms on my pizza and there's no mushrooms on my pizza." Give me an example of you actively listening.
So there I would apologize if there were no mushrooms, and then I would go to correct it.
So I think yes. And I think if you can squeeze in the middle there, kind of repeat back to them what they're saying. Right?
Mhm.
And that's the whole like you're proving to them that you're paying attention. Because if you're not paying attention, I'm like, "Hey, Xavier, I didn't get mushrooms on my pizza." And you'd be like, "I'm sorry, let me fix that." It might even just like go one ear out the other. You might be thinking about a million different things, right? But if you're like, "Oh man, I'm sorry, we didn't put mushrooms on your pizza. Let me go fix that." Right? So that's a great example of that active listening, right? Okay. So what does that do? It ensures accuracy. So what I like my employees to do is when people come up to the register, they say, "I'd like a classic pepperoni with pineapple." And then I want the employee, the cashier, to say, "Okay, cool, a classic pepperoni and pineapple." And they'll say, "Yes." Perfect, right? So you're actively listening. You're letting them know that you're paying attention, right? So that means that they're putting in the computer right. I'm very interested on my side of it for many reasons, right? Number one, I want the customer to be happy. I want them to get the correct product. And then number two, if the wrong product goes out, we're wasting that pizza, right? I'm losing the money on that pizza, on the labor and the ingredients, right? And then it's going to potentially make the customer mad and they won't come back. Okay. Demonstrates attentiveness, right? Like you care, right? Promotes upselling. Give me an example. First of all, what is upselling? And then give me an example.
Upselling is trying to get the customer to buy more than what they initially intended to buy. So one thing could be like, "Oh, you're getting a small drink. Why don't you get a medium? It's better value." Just stuff like that.
Yeah, perfect. Right. Like, oh, for like 40 more cents, you can get a large one.
Yeah.
And then like when you take it to go, you'll have that much more. A better example at my restaurant is we serve chicken wings, right? 6 or 12. And then sometimes we have a special on Wednesdays. You get a pitcher of beer for a certain price if you buy 12, right? Okay, so that's an upsell, right? Oh, were you thinking about getting beer? We can get you that pitcher for $10, right? Upsell on that. There's also an option to add on French fries or Mojo potatoes or onion rings to those chicken wings, right? Okay, so those are all examples of upsells, right? Resolving issues, right? That's going to help with that active listening. We just went through that scenario with the lacking of mushrooms on the pizza, right? And then of course it enhances teamwork because all of these things, if you're there being an active listener, you're not only going to listen to the customer, you're also going to actively listen to your fellow employees, right? If someone, hey, can you help me with this? And you're like, heard, I'm going to do this, right? So repeating stuff back, and especially in the kitchen. Have you ever worked in the kitchen? You're mostly front of the house, or have you done either? Okay, yeah. Kitchen, there's a lot of repeating back things, right? Just to make sure everything's right. Perfect. So tips for clear and concise communication with customers. Use positive language. Yeah, of course we can do that, right? Try to avoid the like, no, I'm sorry. Try to spin it in a positive light, right? It just makes everyone better. Ask for confirmation. That's repeating back. Oh, so I heard a classic with pepperoni and pineapple, right? Right. Cool. Okay. You're creating psychologically, you're creating a little bit of a contract with someone, right? When you're doing that. Okay. So dealing with special requests and dietary restrictions, we just talked about that, right? Some of those options and being extremely flexible. Offer options, listen carefully, communicate clearly, and follow up. Both of those are extremely important, right? Offer options. I've actually been in there with an employee where someone will be like, do you offer non-dairy options? I'm lactose intolerant. And they'll say, no, I'm sorry. And I'll be like, oh, actually, hold on. And I'll like jump in because I don't want to lose that sale, right? You want to, and then I'll be like, hey, we can get you that pizza without cheese on it. And it's awesome. I do it myself. I'm lactose intolerant. They're like, oh, cool. I'll try that. Now we have a sale instead of not having a sale, right? So that's super important to train the employees to do that, right? They'll listen carefully, communicate clearly, and follow up. That's kind of in tune of this whole slide, right? The whole listen carefully thing, make sure you're hearing that people are allergic to things, or this could be a potential safety issue for people. Okay, menu knowledge and recommendations. Importance of staff being knowledgeable about the menu. Why do you think that's important, Xavier?
It's important in case anyone has any issues with allergies, they can ask what's in the menu item. And then also they can use it to their advantage to upsell.
Okay. And I'm going to add to that. Perfect. You're right. It's going to also add authority to that employee. And I don't mean authority like I'm the boss. I mean authority like they are there. They know exactly what they're talking about, right? And as we've discussed, that kind of positive attitude creates an environment where the customer is going to feel safe with that employee and in that restaurant, right? Okay, so how to make menu recommendations based on the customer preferences. Like I said, be confident, right? Understand the menu and suggest similar items, right? This goes with some of those things I talked about with the substitutions with the cheese, or maybe the upsell options, or if you hear them talking, the kids are like, I want Mojo potatoes. And the parents are like, no Mojos. And you're like, well, actually, we can add on like a small one for them. And it's only a couple bucks instead of like $5 or whatever. They're like, oh, cool. Just small little things like that, the little funkiness. One thing that like I really get on my employees and I try to have them talk about this with every single order, which is always a challenge. But Detroit style pizza, which is at my restaurant, traditionally the sauce goes on top, right? But we do have the option for the sauce on the bottom below the toppings. That's how I like it, right? And that's how a lot of my old customers like it. And a lot of people have said, hey, Ben, I don't come in as much because you don't put sauce on the bottom anymore. I go, well, that's an option. It's on the menu, right? But people don't know because sometimes the employees aren't relaying that message. You can do traditional sauce on top or you can go sauce on bottom, right? So just small stuff like that, right? You highlight the specials. Like at Benny's, we have our pizza of the month. This month, because of St. Patrick's Day, we did a potato and leek pizza, which is a vegetarian pizza. People love it, right? So just knowing those kind of things, and then knowing that what the slice of the day is, because every day it changes. Sometimes we'll add a new menu item, like we just added macaroni and cheese about 6 months ago. It's good to let people know that those things are out there, right? Customize something, we just talked about that. And then of course, upsell, we talked about that also, right? So knowing the menu is extremely important for confidence, for getting accuracy, and making sure the customers are happy, okay? And then, of course, handle allergies and dietary restrictions responsibly. We've already talked about that a few times, so we could breeze right past that. Okay. There's always going to be difficult situations and complaints in the restaurant business. Always, 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 right? I'm picky, you're picky, everyone's picky in a certain way, right? We'll have different levels of our tolerance on what we want to bring up or don't. So, very important when people come to you to talk about things, right? We continue this open dialogue, this clear communication, this active listening, right? And you stay calm and composed while all of this is happening, right? You have to remember that people are coming into your restaurant for that safe environment, and you want them to come back. So is it appropriate if someone says, hey, Ben, you forgot to put mushrooms on my pizza, and they kind of have an attitude, you know? Is it important to, should you give them back that same attitude?
No.
No, why not?
Because then it just becomes a hostile environment that's unnecessary.
Right now you're in this like war with this person, right? So you want to de-escalate as much as possible, right? And there's that fine line, right? You don't want to oh, let me, you know, let me give you a free pizza and let me give you this and that, right? You don't want to go that far, right? What I always recommend is that if there is the opportunity to kick it up the line, if I'm there, like the man or a manager's there, or the kitchen manager's there, talk to them about it. Be like, oh my gosh, let me go check on this. Hold on, let me talk to my manager, see what I can do for you, right? Go talk to the manager, game plan. That's always what I recommend is instead of employee like shutting something down or saying no, or I'm sorry, or go game plan with someone higher than you, right? Or game plan together, right? If you have the authorization to make a decision on a complaint or a difficult situation, right? So steps to handle customer complaints effectively. Empathize, right? Like feel what they're going through. I think we've all been there before when we've gotten the wrong order, right? So kind of understand what they're going through. And I would say actually sympathize would also work in a lot of cases, right? Because there's a difference between empathize and sympathize, right? Sympathize, you've been through the situation. Empathize, you haven't, but you can kind of maybe feel what they're going through, right? So keep their emotions in mind, right? Apologize sincerely. That's going to go, all of these are going to go with the effective communications, right? Eye contact, being direct with people, clearly stating things, right? So apologize sincerely. You want them to believe that you actually care, right? Okay, resolve it quick, right? Talk to the manager, talk to the owner, talk to the kitchen manager, talk to whoever, get it resolved, get that new pizza fired up and get it out there. Deliver it. And while they're waiting, check up on them, refill their sodas, apologize again, maybe, right? Talk to them. And then while they're eating, follow up with them. You need a box. How is everything, right? Try to calm things down. For the most part, people just want to be heard, right? And so if you mess up, people understand. And especially those of us who've worked in restaurants before, we understand that people do mess up. And as long as they handle it clearly, it's cool, right? Yes. Cool. Follow up. We don't need a role play. But instead of role playing, I'm going to point something out that's really funny with ChatGPT or AI, is when I asked them to do this handling difficult situations with me as the guest star there, look at the complaint. What does that say? Pepper your. So it's like super funky that on a lot of the, like that's not so bad. I think that's the name of the restaurant on the menu. But some of them, like, it's completely misspelled and it's like horrible. So, anyway, I wanted to point that out, little funny moment in the AI. Yeah, interesting stuff. So let's jump over to teamwork and collaboration, right? Importance of teamwork among restaurant staff. Xavier, what does that mean to you?
It means that everyone is there with the same goals, they're the customers, and also that they want to enjoy where they're working. So I want the environment to be safe and to be respectful.
Yeah, right. And what does that do?
It makes everyone kind of have a higher morale and gives the customer a better feeling for the environment and make them respect it more.
Yeah, so it's a two-pronged thing, right? So the employees are all happy to go to work, and they go to work, and it's not like a complete total drag. I mean, work is work, right? And ultimately, no one wants to work. We all want to like inherit a trust or something, right? But we all can't, right? So we have to go to work. And so we want everyone to kind of have a happy environment, right? You don't like people harassing each other and yelling at each other and throwing things. I've worked in those environments before. It's not fun. You don't want to go to work. As an owner, of course, I want everyone to get along better. They're going to come to work. They're going to be productive. And then I don't have to spend a lot of money on turning people over. And I think employees also don't want new employees constantly, because we know that employees will create like work families, right? So they want those work families to be tight. They want them to grow and to continue, right? And then of course, for the customers, yes, if the employees are there having a great time, they're loving where they work, they're proud of where they work, they're going to do their job so much better, right? Okay, so communication among kitchen, wait staff, and management. You need everybody talking to each other, and this is a constant issue that I face all the time. Like I'll be talking to my kitchen manager and he'll be like, oh yeah, someone's like, he'll be complaining to me about something that happened like a month ago with one of the employees. I'm like, why didn't you bring that up to me then? Right. And so I'll be like, this is something you should talk to me about, right? You don't want to have too many conversations like that with your managers, right? Or else they're not effectively managing, because the information needs to flow up to you, correct? Okay. Very important, everyone is communicating. Why is it important that the kitchen and the wait staff communicate?
It's good for them to communicate that way. They can know how long it's going to take the food to be ready. They know if there's any changes that need to be made to the menu, like the ingredient right now.
Yeah. 86,
yeah.
right? Okay. What about kitchen wait staff and then someone like an owner or a manager? Why is that important?
That's important if the manager, the owner comes into play. It's important because they kind of help set the tone for how things should be running. And also it helps to get everyone to feel solidified in what they're doing, and they have someone to help them if they're kind of getting
yes,
shaky in their
swamped, or if there's a complaint and they want to push it up to the manager because either maybe they're shy and don't want to deal with it, don't know how to deal with it, right? Don't like confrontation. And then that's my job, right? Is to go and talk to the customers that are maybe upset, or to go help clean tables, right? I do that all the time. You'll see me in there cleaning tables. Or something I've been doing a lot lately is jumping in and doing dishes, right? I'll be back there putting dishes in the dishwasher. When people say owners shouldn't be doing that, owners absolutely should be doing that, right? Okay, because if not only am I helping the restaurant when it's in need, right? What else am I doing? I'm cutting down labor costs and saving me some money. But then what do you think that does with the staff?
The staff respect you more because they see that you're with them. You're showing you're not above them, really.
Yeah.
You're one of them.
Perfect. Absolutely. Right. Okay. So let's continue on communication with technology. So this is a two-pronged thing, in my opinion. So between kitchen, wait staff, and management, the technology, let's say like there's a POS system, right? So that's one stage of that technology communication, right? Is in the front of the house, they'll put in the computer, or the bar will put something in the computer, or print up in the kitchen. There's the communication right there, right through that app. Now, there's also communication through scheduling apps. Like we use something called Schedulefly. So if someone needs to get the day off, they'll fly it on Schedulefly. They'll be like, hey, I need this day off. Also, those also have messaging options, right? So instead of big old group texts, it's like I'll send out a message like, hey guys, we're 86 on this, or hey guys, this happened the other day. I can't have it happen again. I need everyone to acknowledge that they saw it, right? Or just the staff talking amongst each other, right? So technology is super important for everyone to get on the same page, right? Team meetings, team building activities. Every quarter we have a team meeting where we catch up on things, or if we drop a new menu item, we use a messaging app. If we put out like raise prices or put out a new menu, we have an actual like team meeting, right? Then at that team meeting, we talk about the prices, we talk about the products, right? We let people taste the food, right? That's all important for some of the stuff we talked about, right? With the menu recommendations for the knowledge on knowing the restaurant. Okay, and then having an open door policy, right? It's not as easy as it sounds. I tell my employees all the time, if you have an issue and you don't want to talk to one of the managers, you can come talk to me. And that does happen sometimes. Not as much as I'd like it to happen, right? Because I think that people are afraid to come to either management or the boss for certain issues, right? So that's something that is a constant struggle in this game, but we are always working towards it, okay? And of course, that's going to make everyone feel safe and comfortable. Encouraging a positive work environment, promoting teamwork, right? We want people to work together. That's going to go back to the employees being in a positive work environment and being happy to come to work. It's also going to, you guys both go clear a table. You clear that table in 30 seconds instead of maybe 3 minutes, right? Just stuff like that. You give recognitions and rewards. Sometimes I'll put up little cheesy like employee of the day, the month things, right? We do give bonuses during Christmas, stuff like that. So in the past, we kind of waned back and forth on like top sales for bartenders. We give them gift certificates, or we'll give them a gift certificate for another restaurant, right? So they can go out and enjoy that with their family, okay? Lead by example. That's something we just talked about. Like, I want my managers to go out and do things, help with dishes sometimes, or do things that they wouldn't normally do. And then, of course, for me, there's that doing the dishes, cleaning the tables, all that kind of stuff. Where I'm not just like, some bar owners and restaurant owners will sit at the bar and drink all day. And it's like, that's a horrible example, because it's showing the employees not only that maybe it's okay to drink at work, right? But that it's also okay to sit around. And that's not cool. Always stay busy, right? And then, of course, have a work-life balance. So for me, I need to pay attention that I'm not overworking my employees, that I kind of pick and choose when I ask for favors. Like, oh, shoot, like dishwasher called in sick. I can either call in Jackson to work a 2-hour shift, or I'll just do it. And an example for me, and I'm not trying to toot my horn right now, but I will. We had an employee, just like, life happened. They left, and they were the dishwasher / like extra help on Monday, Tuesdays. Now, we could have asked another employee to work a 6th day for the week, like 2 employees to work 6 days and fill those 2 shifts. And I was like, no, I'm going to fill those 2 shifts for now. And it works out because I'm more involved in the business, but it's also giving some breaks until we can figure out maybe someone does want to work 2 days a week, and we can infill that when it comes later. Okay. So you don't want to overwork people. And of course, they don't want to come to work if they're overworked. Going the extra mile. I think we're almost done. I think this might be the second to last slide. But going the extra mile. This goes right with customer satisfaction and making people feel safe, right? Give me an example of going the extra mile.
Something that kind of happened at one place I worked was the customer ordered a couple of drinks, and she got the drinks and she tripped and spilled both of them. And I just went ahead, just remade the drinks for her, didn't charge her, and I cleaned up the mess, obviously.
Yeah. So that's like, I remember as a kid, same kind of scenario, but Thrifties, which I think turned into Rite Aid, right? They still have the ice cream, right? And I think back when I was a kid, I'm dating myself, but they were like 35, 40 cents for the ice cream. I remember one time I got like a double stack cone, and I was licking it, and the stacks fell off onto the ground, right? And that employee made me another ice cream, and it like made my day, right? So those kind of things like stick in your mind, right? Of customer satisfaction and you wanting to go back and doing those things. So like in that drink scenario, that's perfect. Of course, you did have authorization to do that probably, right? Yeah, okay. So yeah, and then you spill it, right? You put it as a waste. And in the restaurant business, we know spilling means, you're giving away the product, not giving away the product because you can't give away alcohol in California, but they did pay for it. And so spilling it means that, it was wasted and you're replacing it, right? That's the same with like food that was put in wrong or something like that, right? Okay, perfect. Great example, right? Personalized service, like just getting to know the people, right? Because the customers are gonna come back if they know you. Maybe that customer came back and was like, Xavier, what's up? Like, remember me? Like, and you have a rapport with that person, right? They remember that stuff. Surprise and delight, offering complimentary items or discounts. Obviously, you have to be authorized to do this, right? This is more of a management / owner thing. But I think even letting people know of specials that are discounts so they seem like they're getting hooked up, right? Like, oh, today, we're running a 5% today, like, or we have these little things that we give up to the hotels that sometimes are floating around. It's like a 10% discount. So we'll get, oh, here's a 10% off. Makes the people feel great, right? And they'll come back. And then, of course, going the extra mile, encouraging customer loyalty through exceptional service, right? All the things we talked about that were positive examples, knowing the menu, changing things up for people, replacing those spilled drinks, you're going to get people to come back. So conclusion, the summary of the key points you cover in this presentation. Understand your customers, right? Understand their expectations, what they want, try to help them understand the menu as much as possible to have them a better experience for their expectations, right? Positive first impression. Greet them, say hello, be positive, smile, eye contact, communicate with people, active listening, right? Confirmation with people on things, actually doing what they're asking you to do, right? Being present for people. Menu knowledge, knowing the menu, knowing the ins and outs, knowing sauce on top, sauce on bottom, or yes, of course we can not put cheese on there if you're vegan. It's just stuff like that, right? Handling difficult situations, sympathizing, empathizing with people, making them feel like we actually give a crap, right? If we didn't put mushrooms on their pizza, getting that pizza fired as quick as possible, following up with them after the order comes back, right? Teamwork and collaboration. You're going to want all the staff to work together, makes a positive work environment and makes customers see that it's a cool place to be, right? And of course, going the extra mile, which I think is all of this combined. Then, yeah, I mean, it seems like sometimes just all this combined, simply being good at your job is going the extra mile. It seems like in the restaurant business nowadays, but like, bending over backwards for people where it's not really that big of a deal for you. So, and of course, encourage the staff to implement the learnings in their daily interaction. Implement all of this in their daily interactions. So, any questions? No? Online questions? Here's another AI quizzles.
They nailed pizza.
Yeah, pizza, and then slice, question mark, and then quizzes. Okay. All right. That's it. That's all I got.